Welcome to episode 16 of Shipp's Tips. Now, in this episode, I've brought you to a great fishery, and they're all great fisheries I take you to. They're absolutely beautiful. This is actually called Harescombe. It's in Gloucester, or near Gloucester. It's a venue that I've fished several times and I love it. But I brought you to this venue because fresh in my mind at the moment is what I've been doing over the last month. Is going to venues very, very similar to Harescombe. It's got some skimmers in, but it's also got a lot of roach. And what I'm going to do today is show you exactly what I've been doing with my ground bait, which has been making a massive difference. You know, if you draw the wrong pegs and you go there with the wrong approach, it can cost you framing. You might not be able to win because you're not on those big breaming skimmers. But if you draw the wrong peg, doing something different to your ground bait can get you, you can win your section, you can get in the frame. And that's exactly what I've been doing over the last few weeks. So while it's fresh in my mind, I'm going to bring you back, bring you to somewhere like Harescombe and show exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get back to my gear now, run you through the ground bait I'm using and all the other bits and pieces that I've set up. Well, I've got everything ready now. I'm going to run you through not just the ground bait, but what goes in my mind with the matches I've been fishing recently. And it's really, really important you actually think about it. Now, my ground bait for today, which is what I've been doing, I've fished quite a lot of matches recently with silverfish matches. And if you know the venues, you know there's certain areas which are really, really good for skimmers. And I think you can go to those pegs and be a little bit like, yeah, I'm fishing for skimmers today, but also take in consideration the conditions. We've had some real cold nights. The water is absolutely bitter. This water today, you wouldn't want to put your toes in that, I'll tell you. It's absolutely freezing. And like I do every year in my fishing, is you've got to mess about with your ground baits. Now, the ground bait I've mixed up for today is my base mix is F1 Dark. I mean, everybody knows about it. It's been about for years and years. It's a fantastic ground bait. Obviously, Green Fatters was brought in recently, over like sort of 12 months ago, and that's come into my fishing as well. But one thing you have to think about is also when to mix like your crumb based ground bait in. And honestly, the difference that can make to your day's fishing, you might draw an area where it's a tough area and you have to catch both. And that's when you've got to think outside the box. Don't go to a peg and thinking, I'm just putting fish meal ground bait in here today. I'm not fishing for these roach. I want big skimmers, which is fair enough, but honestly, it can bite you in the butt. And for me recently, I've had some fantastic success by mixing both sorts of fish meals and crumb-based ground baits. So my mix today has been 2 pints of F1 Dark, a pint of Green Fatters, but I've also mixed up nearly a whole bag of So Natural Black Roach. So the F1 Dark is like my base mix. The Green Fatters or Pro Fatters I've used, it's just got that thing about it. I just catch a lot of fish on it. I love the colour. I love it when I mix it in with the F1 Dark. And then you've got the So Natural Black Roach, which has got lots of little hemp particles in it. It's got a bit of crumb in it. It makes things happen in your peg. I know when I've put my ground bait in a minute, there's going to be bits of oil, bits of hemp pinging off. Honestly, the roach love it. But I've also got some fish meal. So if there is a few skimmers, if you're not in a good area of the lake and you want to catch a few skimmers, and that's what's been happening to me. I've been to a place called Riddings. I've used exactly the same mix, not just on the pole, but on the feeder as well. And I think it's made a huge difference to people that are around me. I honestly do. So what I'm going to do, another thing you've got to think about as well is how much bait you're going to put in. Well, I've obviously got to the lake this morning, and thankfully I've actually seen a few roach topping, which is always a good sign. It doesn't mean to say that they're going to feed, but in my mind, it gives you that confidence of putting a bit of bait in. Even though I'm going to feed 2 lines, because I'm not going to fish a feeder today. So I'm going to put a positive line in where I can leave it like an hour, and I'm going to put 1 negative line in because I need to start somewhere. I need to try and nick a few fish. So what I'm going to do, my positive line, I'm going to put 2 balls in, but then I'm going to put some loose ground bait in over the top. So it creates a big cloud, it goes on the bottom, it creates a carpet of bait, and I think that is really, really important as well. So I'm going to get 4 nice big handfuls of that mix. I will just about have enough, like that. Now I'm not going to put, this is obviously something else you've got to think about, is how many particles you put in. Honestly, in the winter, unless you know the venue, I don't go overboard with it. I go really careful. I can always pick a catapult up in loose feed casters or maggots or even pinkies if it's that difficult. So I'm not going to put loads in because I don't want to overcook it. With the ground bait, I think the ground bait goes on the bottom, you know, they come over it, they settle on it. If you have too many particles in this time of year, you can blow it and it might take you too long to catch. I treat that like feeder fishing in the winter. I do quite a lot of bream and skimmer fish in the winter, and if you put loads of particles in sometimes, one, you can't catch the fish because there's too much going on in the peg. You need them to come to the ground bait. There's a hook, it's a bit like fishing a method feeder, where you're using your micros, your ground bait to get the fish in your peg, and you've got that one hook bait. But obviously I'm going to put a little bit, I'm not just going to put one hook bait in, I'm going to put a bit in, but don't overload it. So in them 4 big handfuls, I'm going to put in a big pot, that's about there. So it's not a lot. There's probably 200 casters there. And I'm going to put, favourite, which we all talk about, is pinkies. You know, pinkies might not even come into play, but I've just put a little tiny handful of pinkies in there. Mix that around. Like that. It's not a lot. If you know the venue really well, obviously you can double that up or treble it up. It's up to you, but I'm not going to overcook it. I know that that water is absolutely bitter, and I've had some awesome days. You know, I've drawn some, I know you won't believe this, I've actually drawn some real tough areas on some of these silverfish matches. And one of the matches I actually won with £30 of roach, and I caught everything over my ground bait. And I know people around me have gone full fish meal, and it's just cost them. I've caught £30 the other week, and either side of me have caught like 12 and 15. And then they come up to me and ask them, you know, what ground bait I've put in. They thought, oh, right, I didn't realise you put your silverfish ground bait in. Honestly, it makes a massive difference. So mix that around. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make 2 balls up. So that's going to go down to the bottom and break up. Like I said, not a lot of particles in it. You can add them in if you want. But today, I'm going to take it easy because of the conditions we're fishing in. 2 balls like that. And then I'm actually going to make one little ball up on its own because I'm going to put that into a different line. Same depth, out of the way, which is where I'm going to start. So a ball probably a little bit, you know, sort of a bit bigger than a golf ball where I can start on that. So let's get them in. And I've got me rest there. I might have to nick a little bit more ground bait out of my bucket because I want to put 2 big potfuls of loose in. So I've got my pot there. Let's put the balls in first, the 2 big ones. 13 metres. And you can leave these a little bit shorter of your pole, so it gives you that option. I've got a dolly butt as well, so you can leave it just short of your pole. Get yourself lined up, which is what I've done today. And that just stobs about a bit because it's I've made it quite dry. You can see it go down now, and now I know with it being dry, that's going to go down to the bottom and sort of explode, which is what I want. I don't know if you can probably see that on the camera now. That is actually pinging like mad because there's air coming out of the ground bait. There's all the bits of particles coming off, and that's what you need this time of year. Look at that, you see it fizzing there on my pot. And take your time with this. Accuracy is really, really important. You see all the air coming out of that now. And then what I'm going to do then is fill my pot up with two loose ground baits. So what I do is put it in there, just pat it down a little bit, so you sort of go out, you can turn it upside down, give it a pat, and it'll float and it just explodes. And you could obviously come to a venue, you might have, you know, it's always a gamble how much you put in at the start. You could put 6 balls in, you could put 2 balls in. So that's me loose ground bait. Like that. Don't worry about that. It might look a little bit messy. Don't worry about it. It's about what it's doing. When it goes down through the water, you can probably see that black cloud. That's how clear this lake is as well. So 2 of them. You could put 3 or 4 in, but I don't want to overcook it. I might be sort of like you do with most matches. You might get home and think, oh, I wish I'd put a bit more in. That's all gambles on the day. As an angler, that's, you know, that's what you think about. That's what I think about. But obviously I want a day's fishing. I can always top up. So that's there, look, you can see that now. You can just imagine that all thousands, what, millions of particles that create on the bottom. And then over to me right, I've plumbed up the same depth. I'm going to put that little ball in and just put a little bit of loose in, because that's where I'm going to start. I need somewhere to start, and it might take an hour, you know, this time of year it could take, you just never know. So over to me right, probably about 3 meters away, so I'm going to put that little ball in like that. Just gives me that option. So there you go, that's the ground bait in. I've now run you through, it's really simple, I'll run you through the couple of pole rigs that I've set up for today's session. First rig I'm going to show you today is my positive rig. Now this lake where I'm fishing is probably 9+ foot deep. It's quite a nice depth. It's quite nice to bring you guys to a lake which is a bit deeper, because we do get asked quite a lot, Des, look, we love your videos, but can you go somewhere where it's a bit more natural and a little bit deeper, which is what we've done today, because we do listen to what you guys want, because it's really important. Let's start off with the elastic. My favorite elastic of all time is 6 slip for this sort of fishing. I know some people use like the 5 Jura, but for me, I would be absolutely devastated if we start making 6 slip. If you put the blue lubricant on it as well, which is what I've done this morning, it makes a massive difference, especially when you're catching smaller roach. It just works that much better. Now going down to the rig itself, I've got 014 AccuPower, because all these sort of natural floats, this is what I'm using today. I do tie them, I use these on rivers, canals, and sort of venues like this, which is a bit more natural. So if I was going to somewhere like Tamar, I do use a lot of 014 AccuPower. Now the rig I've made up for my positive rig is one of the new natural power floats. I think they're absolutely bang on. It's a bit deep, but I have set up another rig, which I'll show you in a minute, which is like my Hairy Ferry rig. But that's a 0.75. I think it's absolutely ideal. And I'm fishing, same as what I plumb up, so the body of my float is probably roughly about 1 inch out of the water. And then getting down to the business end, it is a 0.75. I've actually got a bulk of number 8s. It's quite a few number 8s because it is a 0.75, but I don't want to put an Olivet on that size float. I just think it's, I don't know, I think it's the bulk is too tight for that size of float, so I do stick with number 8 shot. You can see me 2 little number 12 or number 11 stots on there, which is me trimming shot if you like, and then I've got 2 number 9 droppers. So that they're roughly, let me get my little tape measure out, because I know you'll all be asking. We love seeing your rigs, Des, but what's the measurements? Now the measurements, that's my hook length. I've got a 6-inch hook length of 09 AccuPower down to an 18 SFL hook, which is going to be bang on for that. I might be able to put a 16 on later, it just depends how, but I'm going to start small and I can always go up. Now shotting patterns is basically 6 inches from the shot above your hook length to the second one, and then it's about 7 inches from the second dropper to the start of the bulk. Now if I was fishing somewhere a little bit deeper, I would probably spread that out a little bit, but I would do that on the morning, because I can use that rig from sort of 3 or 4 foot of water right up to 10 foot of water. So I just stick with that shotting pattern like most of my commercial ones really, and then you can mess about it on the morning. So that's my first rig. I say it is a top kit +1 because it's quite deep. And then the second rig is exactly the same elastic, but one of the favourite floats of all times, I've set up a 4x14 Chianti. I mean, I know there's some huge roach in this lake, and they might come off the bottom. If I start loose feeding, they'll probably come off the bottom, and I've set this 4x14 Chianti up. It doesn't get better. I normally use a lot of F1 maggots, but on days like today, with clear water, I know they're going to be, you know, if they don't want to feed over the ground bait so well, I might have to use this Chianti. There's no better float. Orange tips today because I'm fishing the shadow. I've actually got 011 power line on there rather than 014, because this is the sort of rigs that I use on commercials and things like that, where them bigger floats is what I use on sort of natural lakes. So 011 power line. I could even use this at like Tunnel Barn in places like that, winter F1 fishing. Now shotting pattern on there, all I've got is some spread out number 9s and number 10s. So I've got 3 number 10s, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 number 9s, and they're spread out over the first 2.5 to 3 foot. I can mess about with that. They were actually bulk when I got it out on the from the winder. I've just spread them out because I know I might not even need it. Hopefully these roaches settle on the bottom and I can clod them like that, nice and easy. But you never know. If I was fishing a match here today, these are the rigs that I would be setting up. So I'm itching to get going. The same hook on there, 09 Aki power to an 18 SFL, because it is delicate sort of roach fishing and skimmer fishing. I don't know what's going to happen. I can see me ground bait. That's the thing with that black roach in it. It creates activity. And if anything comes over my bait, that will settle down, that will die off. But I've been to venues before and you're fishing away. You can only normally see it when it's flat calm like this, or you've got the right light, but you see it all pinging. And sometimes the fish have come in your peg, and sometimes you can't catch them, and then all of a sudden they'll settle and start feeding. And that's what I'll be looking for today. And that's what gives them away, really. So the first rig I'm going to get up is I'm going to go on me 0.75. I'm just going to start with a single red maggot, and I'm going to go on me negative line, and hopefully I'll get back to you when we get our first bite. Well, that didn't take long. That's taken 15 minutes to catch that. I think it's definitely a roach. So that's on me negative line, that one ball line, double pinky. And that's a nice thing. That's what I do think about. Like if you put a few pinkies in, like I have today, and the fishing's going to be tough at the start. It's not a bad roach, 4 ounces. So that's what I want. You know, it's some of the matches I fished, it is about, and I spoke about it before, it's about getting your first bite, because you can sit there for a long time some days, and putting that active roach in your mix, I think makes a huge difference. And that's going to be 0.75, just over depth. I was going to actually come off the bottom, because sometimes in a deep venue like this, you can actually start off bottom, like 4 inches off. But I do like, you know, because it is a commercial we're fishing today, and I am trying to catch quality, but it is worth sometimes just coming off the bottom. Oh, there though. And I think there's been a shoulder fish just come over that ground bait. I've just had a bite immediately then. I've not loose filled anything just yet. Might have to just put a number 13 start on there. I have got a bit of float showing, because it is a deep venue, and you'll find sometimes when it's a deep venue, oh yes, I love this fishing. You see how clear it is. It's sort of like a bluey clear, like an ice clear. That is beautiful fishing. You don't get better, honestly. I live for this sort of fishing. But I do a lot of thinking. I might look a bit silly, as a lot of people would say, and I don't blame them one bit. But I do think about things with ground baits. Let's get them pinkers over here. So double flow pinky. So that's on me right hand line, that one ball. And if you watch how I drop it in, I'll try and get Jake to show you. You can like swing your bulk along where your ball went in, drop it in and fold it over. So it's no messing around. I've got a rig if I want to mess around. And if I can catch on this rig, it's going to make it so much easier. I'm hoping that I can top up with ground bait with casters, you know, might even cut the pinkies out. If I'll put a caster on in a little bit. I'm just thankful that I've had a couple of bites, because that's what you want. Oh, look at that. And that's what it's all about. It's about getting them fish to come to you. You know, there's been matches where I've had to wait a long time, and there's matches that I've caught early, and the matches you catch early are normally the matches you probably frame in. But it depends what everybody else is catching. They're absolutely beautiful roach at Harescombe. They're absolute, them fish, I can't even start to explain how cold them fish are. It actually hurts your fingers when you, that's why I've got my little heater going. Although I'm getting on a bit now. and that just takes the chill off. So that's awesome. Like I said, 15 minutes, because we were having a good old chat, me and Jake, and we said, well, it could be, you know, hopefully it could be sooner rather than later. And out of the blue. So I'm just leaving me positive line alone at the moment. It's not always about that. Sometimes, even when it's been really, really tough, my main line's been the only line I've actually caught on. I can't explain that, but a lot of the time, you know, is having that negative line is a good place to go in, and you might have to use both lines through the day as well. Look at that. Won't be long before I put a caster on. So top kit +1 deep. Nice to come to a venue actually where you've got a bit of depth. So that's a top kit +1. It's a perfect depth to swing them sort of fish. I can't resist it. I'm going to put a caster on. I can see me taking that 18 SFL off and putting a 16 on as well by the time the day's out, which would be very nice indeed. So drop that in exactly the same. And sometimes, some of the venues I've been, you'll sit there, you might have sat there for quite some time without a single indication, and you'll get some liners sometimes, you'll get like a couple of fly unders. And oh, that's the first bite on caster, thank you very much. Has he had me bait? Yeah, he has. Took my caster off. No, it hasn't. Let's just move around the hook a little bit. I've got to be looking for that as well. I'm looking for all that. When I pick my bait up, if it don't look right, I'll bring it back and check it. Make sure I get a nice caster. Golden brown caster. I've always been really into that, what caster I put on the hook. Just swing that round. So don't worry about your positive line just yet. Just concentrate on this because I want them to settle. If they're on that positive line, it's only 3-4 meters away. So, but I've been on matches where my negative line's been the best line all day, and other days it's the other way round. So you need to do both really, unless you know the venue that well, which I sort of go all over the place. Which is nice for you guys because that's, you know, that's what these films are all about. And there, you know, there's always a case of coming off the bottom sometimes. You know, fishing 2 to 4 or 5 inches off the bottom can be deadly for roach. It's not that often that I do it on commercials. It's normally on the drop and on the deck because I'm a big believer than fishing for a, you know, a bonus fish like a tench, a bream. If it's an out and out roach venue, then obviously fishing off the bottom can be brilliant. Nice little 3 ouncer. Oh, first fish on casters, which is awesome. So it looks like we're going to have a great session, which is really, really nice considering how cold it's been. Some of the venues have obviously been iced up recently. This was probably ice on it, which is the worst scenario. But I'm sure if I'd have come here with just fish meal, with them roach and that, sometimes they just won't settle on it. Oh, look at that. On the drop that was, or just as it settled. There is some absolute clonking great roach in these lakes, so hopefully as we go along we will catch some proper stamp roach. I'm definitely going to put a little baby stot on there in a minute. And being in that depth of water, the 0.75 float, I've set it up because I don't want to be messing around. If that was a 4B16, you're letting everything go down. It just takes too long. especially when you're catching well. There we go, look at that for a bite. Oh yes, that was a proper lovely bite. And I do find that when you go to a deep venue, you can fish a little bit more float. It's ever so strange. You can fish a bit, you know, a little bit more float showing, nice bit more positive, where my float normally, no one else can see it apart from me. The line's twisted around him. Nice Roach, probably 6 or 7 ounces. Perfect net Roach that. Look at him. Beautiful. You certainly nailed that. Let's get the disgorger. So I'm just going to plod along a minute, not do anything, and I'll report back. Hopefully when I got a pound roach in my hand. Fingers crossed. I'm on my positive line now. I had about 10 roach on my negative line. It went a little bit slow and I've just dropped in on my positive line. I've had 1 roach and I've just missed 2 or 3 indications. There we go. Never mind. And what I'm going to do now, that feels like a better fish as well. So that's on me. That's on the line that I've actually put those 2 big balls in and 2 loose balls. That's a nice roach, I think, that. So I'm just going to top up my negative line because you never know. I want to put a few more casts in as well because that's what I'm catching on. It's obvious they're going to have a little bit of a munch today because we've caught after 15 minutes. And they are on my positive line as well now. Nice 6 ounce roach that. Probably 7, actually, probably 8 ounces that. Look at him. Beautiful. So before I go back out there, let's top up that line I put the 1 ball in to start with. It's actually gone really, really cold at the moment. Really cold. So I'm going to get a few more casters, mix that in. If your ground bait dries out a little bit during the day, you can just tip a little bit of water in at your casters. You can clag that up a little bit because it's obviously going to be fishing. It looks like we're going to have a real good day. Let's get a few more casters in there just to richen it up. Just nice ball, not going to put any loose in. The same size as what I started with because I just want to top that up. So there's not a lot in there. And that's what's made me do that, is I've got on that positive line. I'm thinking, right, yeah, these are going to have a pop today. And go straight back out on that positive line. I can't see that Chianti rig. We've only been fishing for like close to an hour, and I can't see that at the moment I can't see that Chianti rig come into play because of the depth, because I want the fish over me ground bait. I don't want to loose feed at the moment because it's just deep as well. It's exactly the same rig, but just on my positive line. The bites are absolutely beautiful. Some of the bites are just like slow-mo. It's great when you get them, you know, when they're feeding. Look at that. Someone just had a little nose at that then. Look at that for a bite. That's ridiculous. So they've settled right over that ground bait. And this is what's happened to me in some of the matches recently. You know, some days have been harder than others. That's fishing. They are definitely better stamp on that positive line. Proper weight building fish then. Oh, it's come off in the net. Just untangle that. Single caster, you know, always love catching on casters if you can. Doesn't always happen. That's why you need your pinkies and your maggots. Every day can be different, whatever venue you go on. And I know some venues, you've got to fish maggots and pinkies to catch the roach. And I find that if you come to a lake like this, and it's quite a clear lake, I mean, I can probably see 2 foot down at least, casters are a great bait, and I can't never explain that. The lakes that stay dirty, some lakes I go, they're like quite coloured. Casters are like opus, you get an odd bite on it, but you can never catch a load of fish. Like maggots and pinkers are better. But still the same approach with like your ground bait. Look at that. That might have even been a little liner, I'm not sure. And if you'd have had a 4x14 set up today and the fish were feeding like they are at the moment, you're just wasting your time. You want that nice bulk, especially with the depth we're fishing in. Like I said, it is like 9 foot. Look at that. Don't get better. They're like bloodworm bites, they are. Nice to get your roller nice set up. Yeah, definitely 100% better stamp on that line. Look at that. That's worth getting out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning for that. That's probably 8 ounce plus. Proper nailed that. A bit of a runny nose. Nice thing today as well, because it's like quite misty at the moment, it's keeping the sun off. And that's something you've got to look at as well when you go to venues. You know, if it's real cold, bright, sometimes you've got to wait for the fish to have a go. And I think like with it being dull today, misty, it's not a night, you know, it's not a great day because it is really cold, but it can make the fishing actually better. Look at that, just seeing something then. Look at that. God, just had that as it settled. There's definitely a lot of fish over that ground bait there. I don't really want to loose feed at the moment because I just think it's going to mess things up. I think you're better off just like fishing over your ground bait. I know there's quite a lot of ground bait in that peg. Probably enough to keep them going. Definitely that little bit bigger, eh? I think I caught one that big on that other line out of like 10 fish. With this line, definitely. Everything seems to be sort of 5 ounces up to 8 ounces. Just concentrate now, that's all I'm doing now. When the fishing is like this, I'm just concentrating on how I put my rig in, you know, try and get if I was in a match, it's all about being as efficient as possible. When the fish are having a go, how you drop your rig in, you know, trying to hit as many bites as you can. I think he's had me bait, no he's not. I lifted that up then because the sky's got grey and you can't see your bait. Oh God, there's some fish there. Look at that. Absolutely doesn't get better. That 6 slip is absolutely perfect for this today. See them fish quite a long way down. 4 ouncer. Proper nail that needed a scourger. This is when all your little bits of practicing of dropping your rig in. You know, if you come to a venue like this a little bit deeper, it can help you out no end. It's like they've just settled on my ground bait, just as you want it. You know, always, you know, sometimes when you're catching it, you think, oh, I wish I'd have put more in. I wish I'd have put more particles in. With the conditions the way they are at the moment, that is a big gamble of putting like loads of bait in. Because if it doesn't happen, you're in trouble. I know you've got your negative line, but you really need to sort of think about it, because it can just mess your whole day up. And what I've done is I think I've put enough bait in for the conditions. You know, if I'd have fed another 2 or 3 big pots of ground bait, yeah, probably in hindsight, with them, you know, with the fish feeding as confident as they are. Cool, that's a good roach. There's big stamp roach in here as well. I've not caught one yet, but there's some absolute stonking great roach in this lake. But these are proper weight builders. Imagine the cat shot with them at the end. Just looking to cast like a maggot, not I'm not trying to sort of cover it at all. A bit of a wrap over. Look at that. Took that straight away and come off. Let's check the caster. That felt like a big roach as well, that. Oh dear, let's come off. Just dump that then. We're on a 16 in a minute. Oh, I tell you, that has gone proper cold since that mist has come down. It is really cold. So all I'm thinking about now, really, with the fish feeding like they are, settled over me ground bait, is I'm not going to pick a catapult up, because I just think at the moment it's a bit too deep to do that. I'll probably mess things up. I could end up bringing the fish off the bottom, having problems, where if they're settled like that, it don't get better. But I might have to top up. I've obviously topped up my other line. I think that might be a lift bite. I've topped up my negative line, because I will look after that, even though I want to catch on my positive line, because it's bang in front of me. It's a lot easier to fish, and the fish have definitely been bigger. But I might have to use that if I was in a match and things slowed down on this line. I might have to top it up, leave it. I always look after my other lines. Look at that. Oh, hello. Definitely bigger stamp. So straight away I'm thinking, while I'm fishing, I'm thinking, right, well, I'm going to top up like I did with that negative line. I'm going to put more bait in, more casters, no more pinkies yet, because I want to try and catch quality as well as plenty of fish. I mean, look at them. They're like 2 to the pound. So I'm just going to keep going on that negative line until things change, and I'll get back to you and let you know what I've done and what my thoughts are. Getting near the end of the session now. We've been going for a few hours and the fishing has been amazing. And I've not picked the catapult up. It's been one of them days where the ground bait has been the right thing. The roach have settled over it. No skimmers, which doesn't surprise me. Casters, as soon as I started fishing with casters, look at that. I've just topped up again. Oh, that one's come off. I've actually topped up about 4 times, that's all. from that previous 4 lots of ground bait that I put in. And they've been big balls, you know, like that. And I've put more and more casters in because you can just tell that they've settled. You know, you can give them a ball, go on it. If I've had some absolute beautiful roach, up to sort of 14 ounces. Lots of fish from 3 ounces to 6 ounces. I'm going to see if I can just catch you one more big roach before I show you what I've caught. And it's been that process really. It's just been one of them days. If the fishing would have been a bit more difficult, you know, you never know on a day like today. We could have sat there for 2 hours. By then I'd have been loose feeding, trying to get the fish to respond. It ain't been like that. The ground bait has done exactly what, you know, what it's designed to do, is to get the fish in your peg and get them to settle on the bottom. You know, I've not picked that Chianti rig up. It's been an absolute red letter roach day really. I said to Jake, we've been really lucky today with the conditions. You know, the roach have wanted to munch. I mean, that's the average stamp there, which is 4 ounces, probably 4 to 5 ounces, up to sort of 12 ounces. They're an absolute immaculate roach here at Harescombe, even though they get caught, because it is a commercial. The water is fairly clear, I'm not going to deny it. When we got here this morning, I'm thinking this could be really tricky, and we all know what it's like in the winter. I'd just love to catch you one of those nice sort of big uns to finish the session off really, because some of the roach we've had, you will come and you think, oh, that's like a bream, and it's these great big roach. But the bites, honestly, you know, a day like today when they've settled on the bottom, they're eating the ground bait, you know, they're choking it up. Look at that, they are right on it. It's a lovely roach that. So I think before it gets too dark, because I'll probably be staying on when Jake's gone, I'm going to call this the last roach. It's not the biggest what we've been catching today, admittedly, but it's a great fish to finish it off. So like nice and positive rigs, because it is quite deep. It's nice to bring you guys to a venue like that. That's about 6 ounces to finish the session off. You know, just putting that roach ground bait in with your fish meals. Think about that. It can make a massive, it has to me over many years, and also over the last sort of 6 or 8 weeks. So don't forget to put your, you know, mix your ground baits about with your fish meal, and also your crumb based ground baits like So Natural Roach. And honestly, on days such as today, it can make a massive difference. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop fishing and show you all the fish that I've caught on today's session. Well, what can I say? What a fantastic day's fishing I've had here at Harescombe Lakes near Gloucester. You know, putting that ground bait in at the start, and they've come over, these roach. You know, we've had roach from 3 ounces to nearly a pound. It's been absolutely awesome. It's been a red letter day, you know, in these conditions with the water, you know, losing its colour. The roach have had a go. They've settled over the ground bait. Catapult wasn't even needed today. I've put more and more casters in my top up balls, even though I've only topped up probably 4 to 6 times during the session. They've settled on it. Single caster on an 18 hook was, you know, was best as we went along. I bet you know, I'm sure, and I hope you picked up some great tips on how to mix different ground baits together to get the most out of a, you know, not just a hard day, but sometimes on a real difficult peg. So let's get these back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.